Today, this is KPIR 1420 AM, the news, talk, and sports of Hood County. Today, we've got the place four candidates for the Granbury City Council. Their names are Rose Myers, Tom Baker, Kent Gray, and Tony Mobley. And I'm going to give each one of you an opportunity to come up to the mic and tell us a little bit about yourself and what your top two priorities are if you are elected. So we did a drawing, and we're starting with Mr. Tom Baker. Tom, welcome to KPR. Welcome to the show. And what can we expect from you, sir?
Well, thank you. I appreciate this time and opportunity to speak to the general public and such. My two priorities for what I happen to do when I get elected is, of course, the water issues, which we need to be working with the city and the county and the Lake Granbury Waterfront Property Owners Association to come to a resolve to get our water back in the lake. I'm afraid that we're going to have a lot longer period of time to do that than we want to take, but we certainly can't push the city or can't push the state much faster than they want to be pushed. They've been here a lot longer than we have. They've got a lot more lawyers than we have, but with this coalition of the county, the city, and the Lake Granbury Waterfront Property Owners Association, we should be able to get something moving and be successful with it, at least to get BRA to follow their own rules and be more conscious of our needs and the other lake owner needs up and down the river. Second priority is changing some of our ordinances for the zoning. We have some restrictive covenants which make it difficult for new businesses to come into town and take over an old property. If you're building from scratch, it's a little bit different subject, but when you're taking over a property, you probably don't have as much money as those that are starting from scratch, but they've been restrictive somewhat. I'm on the Zoning Board of Adjustment, which basically the two issues we hear is rocking the buildings, putting the stone on the fronts or sides, and also the vegetation, trees, bushes, flowers that are also a part of that. Right now we're in a drought. We should be over it hopefully very soon. You can irrigate and such, but our water is expensive too, so we have to do something to temper a little bit the vegetation that is being required and the rocking the buildings.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
That was Tom Baker. Next up, Tony Mobley. Tony, tell us a little bit about you and your two top priorities, please.
Okay, well, I'm Tony Mobley. I've been in the area for 9 years. I'm a business owner here as well as a homeowner here. So as far as the city of Granbury is concerned, I'm all in. I live and work here. Rarely leave the county. If we get a few more stores in town, I'll never have to leave the county. As far as priorities, yeah, the lake is an issue. I think as far as a city council person, there are some things we can do, although that's limited. I think we need to hit our knees and pray for rain. That would take care of a big part of it. But I think there's been gross mismanagement on the part of some of the powers that be, and I think we can forge a better relationship with those groups as well. Tourism, it seems like my office is right off the square. It seems like we've been working on the square, some kind of construction project for the last 5 or 6 years. We've got a courthouse that's we can be proud of. We've got an opera house that's going to open up next month that I think will make a lot of the counties around us envious, and I think we need to take advantage of that. We need to have the right people in place to market that, because this is a one-time deal to make a first impression and get people back on the square. Several years ago when I came to Granbury, I used to brag that, gosh, you drive through the square in the middle of the day and there are people all over the place, and that's not necessarily the case now. And I think as the square and as the retail goes, the city goes. So yeah, the lake, the square, but I'd also, what I'm pushing for is some transparency and some accountability amongst our leaders in the city. I think there's been some things done in the past that maybe shouldn't have been done, or if we're going to do these things, then let's let our voters know what we're doing and before we do it. That way we all have to answer to that, and that's kind of what I'm hoping to bring to the table.
Thank you, sir. That's Mr. Tony Mobley. And up next, Miss Rose Myers. Rose, tell us what your two top priorities are if you are elected to place for the Granbury City Council.
Hi, my name is Rose Myers, and I have been a lakefront owner since 2005. I say that really doesn't matter because I've been coming here since the 80s. My kids learned how to ski on this lake, so I am very lake passionate. I think it's number one priority is that we do need to work as a cohesive unit with the city council, the county commissioners, and the LGWA. I think that we all need to come together and finally get an answer from the BRA. That's something that I have been asking about for many years with the previous mayor and the current mayor, is what kind of rights do we have? Because I live on the water, I see the water go down every week. In fact, this past week, the water, it looks like, has gone down another foot. And so I'm one of the waterfront owners that is cleaning the weeds out of my property. I'm watching flowers grow in my rocks. I see snakes, raccoons, and all kinds of issues. So I think that that's really important, and I believe it's important that as the lake goes, so does Granbury. I do believe that we've seen evidence through Travis James' economic study that we are suffering with our property values. I know my house is worth a lot less than it was when I first purchased it. It's probably worth $200,000 less than just 3-4 years ago. So secondly, I think it's very important for our fiscal responsibility on the council to make smart decisions, and I feel like my experience can do that. I am pro Opera House, but I'm a little disappointed on the price. So I think that we can work together and plan better and make better fiscal decisions up at the courthouse.
Thank you very much. That's Rose Meyer. And our last candidate, Ken Gray. Ken, tell us a little bit about you, sir, and your top 2 priorities for the city of Granbury if elected.
Well, thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Ken Gray. I am currently I'm twofold. I'm retired, and I also work part-time as a customer service manager at our local neighborhood Walmart. Top 2 priorities. Clearly, everybody is up in accords with the lake and the issues that we're having and the fact that the lake levels are low, and there's a constant struggle with the BRA and its water rights issues, and those battles obviously need to be fought. I too live on the lakefront, and every day I see the water creeping away. But you know, we're in a serious drought, and Lake Granbury isn't the only lake in the region that's suffering these problems. Lawyers can help us get a seat at the table to fight the fight against the BRA and make sure that they only are entitled to what has already been agreed to. But we also need to focus on uplifting the entire community and scream with one voice to the head of the government to make sure that the right people in the BRA are making the decisions that are in the best interest of Granbury citizens. So I think we all agree that the lake is one of our big issues. I also believe that one of my main campaign issues is the future of Granbury, which includes our young citizens. I believe that we need to have safe environments that the kids can learn in. I think there should be protection in the schools for them. I believe that they should have opportunities to do community volunteerism and after-school programs. And the community needs to work together to ensure that they have opportunities to be productive adults when they grow up.
Thank you very much, and that was Mr. Ken Gray. All right, we're going to get into a series of 6 questions, and we'll start out in the same order, and then we'll mix it up as we get each question, so everybody's got an opportunity to go first, and everybody's got an opportunity to have the last word as well. And first up, again, is Tom Baker. Here's the question for all of you. Do you support the BRA's water permit for an additional 432,000 acre-feet, which according to the BRA will lower Lake Granbury more than it currently is? Why or why not, sir?
Absolutely not. They haven't been able to handle the first 500,000 acre-feet that they've had some control over. I don't see that they've given us any confidence that they can handle any more or handle it any better than what they've done. If there's asking for permits and they're not even filling out the permits correctly. They didn't do water study before or water flow study before. That's part of the reason why we're so low now. They closed off the power plant at Possum Kingdom a couple years back, and they didn't do the studies or the public hearings that they were supposed to for that. They've filled in the chutes so that you can't go back and reopen Possum Kingdom ever again without turning on the dam and starting over. So they haven't been a good steward of their first too many acre feet. They certainly shouldn't be given any rights to any more acre feet than what they already have.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Mobley, same question for you, sir.
Well, last name's Mobley.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mobley, do you support the BRA's water permit for an additional 432,000 acre feet?
Well, absolutely not. And I don't know how anybody could. I mean, if you look at what we have now, I used to live on the lake until 3 years ago, and then I lived on beachfront, and now I don't. It's just land. So I've seen that. It used to be where you'd see a little island, and now it's a field of grass. So clearly there's been mismanagement on their parts, and I don't know. You know, if we're getting plenty of rain in the region, at some point it doesn't matter what kind of water they let out. But as it stands now, they've certainly proven that they have a hard time managing what we have with the rates that they're allowed now. I can't see how it would improve our situation at all.
Thank you very much.
I absolutely do not support it, and neither do the citizens of Granbury support this. The city council doesn't support it, and I understand there's multiple factors of them asking for more water, and I think, again, we need to go back to the evidence that has been brought to us, that if they get more water rights, this is going to be devastating to our lake. It's not as devastating to PK or Whitney. It's enormous for us, both economically, environment. I mean, we've just got too much to lose to allow them to get any more water rights from the lake, and we have the evidence behind it. So it's not a passionate plea, it's an evidence plea that says that if you do this to us, that you're really going to hurt our city, and it's going to hurt our citizens, and it's going to hurt the future of Granbury. So I think it's really important that we all stand together and say no to any more water rights from the BRA.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Ken Gray, same question. Are you going to be in support of the BRA's permit to take more water out of the lake?
See, I've counted no, no, and no, and I'd like to make it an enthusiastic fourth no. Look, the BRA claims that they created Lake Granbury, and that they did it for a purpose. And that's true. But once you create a town based on the lake that's been created, you don't turn around and take it away from them. I mean, we've built homes on the lake. The property values are sinking. And not only does that affect lakefront and lake property owners, it also affects citizens that don't own lakefront property, because they're going to have to make up some of the tax base that's lost from the value of the properties that are going down. So absolutely not. We need to look at another way. We all need to pray for rain, but we need to tell the BRA to back off. You don't use what you've already permitted for. You don't need to permit for additional water rights.
Thank you very much. You're listening to the Place for City Council candidates for the City of Granbury City Council. And this is 1420 AM, the only radio station in Granbury. We'll go to question number 2, which is, in 2011, the BRA produced a water management plan that included the HALF study, that's HALFF. In this study, it showed that the ratio of 1.75 to 1 to be a fair drawdown ratio between Lake Possum Kingdom and Lake Granbury. Do you believe that this is indeed a fair ratio? And we start out with Mr. Mobley. If you would give us your thoughts on that, please, sir.
Yeah, well, the short answer is no. I mean, a 1-to-1 ratio would be fair. I mean, whatever you put in, you can take out. That way, everything basically stays the same. I mean, I've heard everything from 5-to-1 ratios, which appears to be what we're doing now because, golly, as Rose said earlier, I mean, you can look out there now. I know I've had 3.5 inches of rain in the last 2 days, and yet the lake is still going down, so it hardly seems fair. So I think we'll have a unanimous opinion on this one as well, because it's an obvious question to an obvious problem. And clearly, like I said, they haven't abided by the rules to this point, and I can't see how they would change their situation going forward.
Thank you. In 2011, the BRA produced a water management plan that included the HAF study. In that study, it shows a ratio of 1.75 to 1 to be a fair drawdown ratio between PK and Lake Granbury. Do you think that's a fair ratio?
Okay, so this draws to my scientific mind, and again, looking at the evidence. It's very obvious that 1.75 to 1 is not a good ratio for us. This is extremely flawed. Also the information that was brought out is that at the ratio that we have now, when Lake Granbury is 5 feet low, we are over 90% unusable. All our docks are unusable. And, PK has to be 20 feet below, or 20 feet low, in order to be where we are today. So it's obvious that we have a flow issue, and it needs to be more like 5 to 1, as the evidence shows, versus 1.75 to 1. So when I get elected, I'm going to be pushing with the LGWA and the council to make sure that if we can do something about our flow ratios, especially in a drought situation. I mean, we are in a drought, but we also have other factors that are contributing to our problems here. So we need to get to where we have a constant level of 2 or 3 feet low so we can use our docks.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gray, the water management plan that calls for a ratio of 1.75 to 1, do you think that's a fair ratio between Lake Possum Kingdom and Lake Granbury?
Well, I don't know how you can compare the two when you're comparing apples and oranges. I mean, if we didn't have a drought, we wouldn't be having this discussion. If we had 10 inches of rain last night instead of 2, this wouldn't even be an issue for the city council race. It only became a race because we have a drought, the lake is getting low, and people are panicking. What I think should happen here is the BRA should be completely hands-off, let the lake refill once the rains come, and then we can settle the matter. But to compare what we should be in a ratio with any other lake when the geographic situation is totally different, like you said, floating versus hard docks, no, I don't know how you can draw a comparison between the two and call it fair.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Baker, you'll have the last word on that ratio of 1.75 to 1. And do you think that's a fair drawdown ratio between PK and Granbury?
Well, I think any survey or study that BRA has done, I would be quite suspicious of, because I think they're somewhat self-serving, and so they're going to do, or they're going to hire somebody that's going to answer the question exactly like they want it answered. If PK has floating docks, it's probably better for them. Floating docks right now would be pretty useless in Granbury unless you had like about a 100-foot long lead to it, because most of the docks not only are dry underneath them, they're not anywhere close to being full. Most of the canals are almost completely empty. There's more vegetation in them now than there is water. We're talking about now some people have puddles in them. Well, great, you can't do much with a puddle, but no, I'm quite suspicious of BRA trying to say that 1.75 is better than 5 to 1. They have to be flawed. They are too suspicious of everything else they've done to say that what numbers they've come up with are the best numbers to use.
Thank you very much. And I sympathize with all of you as a De Cordova resident. If I lowered my boat today, it would be completely on dirt. All right, the third question. And today with the third question, Rose, you're up first. Do you support Limited's expansion of Proposition 3 and 4, which will withdraw 60,000 additional acre feet from Lake Granbury and would make it at least another 4 foot lower?
Well, absolutely not, because first, I'll never be able to sell my house if that happens, because I'll be able to walk out to the middle of the Brazos River. And, you know, they didn't give us the options to have floating docks. The BRA made us build these docks that we have, and they were costly docks, and we had to build them to their specifications. So why would I be in support of them taking more water out of the lake to build 3 and 4 reactors and compromise my property more, compromise the city more, compromise the citizens more? I mean, I could care less if it brought more jobs. I'm sorry. I mean, that's probably going to lose me votes, but I think that if you build a community around a lake, which is different than what we have at Lake Whitney and at Possum Kingdom, then you need to be responsible to the homeowners that have this type of property and the business owners and everybody that affects. So I am not in favor of doing that, because I'm going to be in the same pool with people that, you know, have a tragedy happen to their dreams when they came to live here. I mean, my kids come visit me to be on the lake. My grandkids, I teach them how to fish. I teach them how to do things on the lake instead of play electronics. I mean, this is going to be devastating to the city of Granbury, and I would be very, very much opposed to that, and I will be very vocal that I do not support that whatsoever.
Thank you very much.
Well, I mean, it's becoming a broken record. I think that, well, first of all, absolutely not. I would not. As far as the jobs, you know, at what point do we gain jobs versus the jobs that we'll lose if the lake continues to draw down? I mean, there's businesses that depend on the lake. We have some entrepreneurs that are going to benefit from the low lake by doing boat removal. But other than that, no, we need to save what we have. We need to build up what we have so that we can nurture the tourism industry and the economy so that Granbury can grow, not decline.
Thank you very much. And Tom Baker, same question for you, and I'd be happy to repeat it if needed.
Well, I think Lumen's already made a deal with BRA to get the water that they need, but Lumen also has to look at other sources of energy, not just from nuclear. Nuclear is nice and clean and all that, but you still need a lot of water to cool the tower, or cool the reactors with their towers and such. That's why they're usually built alongside oceans or freer flowing rivers that have a bigger source of water in them. PK is going to have to let some water out for that, so they're going to be complaining then. So I think if that happens, then we'll have more people on board to fight BRA with the water issues and such. There are other sources of energy manufacturing. Wind is the easiest one right now. It's a little bit difficult to get to and to transport it in, but if you're just putting up some more wires, it's cheaper than trying to get water that we don't have, and if we're waiting for the drought to be over with, that's probably going to happen soon, but it just won't happen soon enough to get water back into our lake.
Thank you, sir. And Tony Mobley, your thoughts on this limited expansion withdrawal?
Well, I'll basically echo what's been said, but also, again, I would push that we sit down at the table with all three parties, several parties, the local municipalities, Lumen, the BRA, and come up with a solution for what we have now. And when that works, and I believe it will, then if there's an expansion, then we address that, and we come up with a plan that will make that work as well. Now, we've seen what a worst case scenario looks like with the regional drought. I mean, if you go to Austin, their lake is over 50 feet low, which doesn't make us feel any better. But the situation is, if we can't manage what we have now, there's not a person in this county that would support an expansion, no matter what the economic benefit would be. Is there going to be an economic benefit if it happens? Absolutely. But if we have a little stream instead of a lake and or river, that affects everything. That affects the local economy, and we've seen it in the tourism side of it. I mean, I've lived on the lake, and I remember going to 4th of July, watching fireworks when you could literally walk across the boats all across the lake. This last year there were 25 boats. And I look out my back window and see the main body of the lake. 4th of July weekend, there were 6 watercraft. It's hard to get excited about a lake when you see that. And when the skiers would fall off their skis, they'd stand up and it'd be chest high. And that was in the middle of the lake. So I can't see how anybody could support an issue that would drain more out when we can't maintain what we have.
Thank you, sir. You are listening to the Place 4 candidates for the City of Granbury City Council here on 1420 AM. We're up to question number 4. Oh, and this is brought to you by the Lake Granbury Waterfront Owners Association, SaveLakeGranbury.org. And question number 4, we start out with Ken Gray. Ken, what do you think will be the economic impact to Granbury if the TCEQ approves the BRA's permit request to remove another 432,000 acre feet of water?
Bleak. I think that, nobody can foresee the future. Nobody can anticipate what's going to happen when decisions are made. We don't know how much rain we're going to get between now and whenever that happens. But if current situations remain stable and we continue to drain the lake, then I would just echo what's been talked about here today. The community at large is going to have to raise up and have a single voice and say, no, we're taking our lake back. We don't need more of what we already have. We have 1 power plant, we don't need 2 more if it's going to draw down the lake like it's proposed. So dire, I would say dire perhaps even. I've been here almost 4 years, and every summer the drought has been worse and worse and worse. And the lake last winter, if I recall, almost was full, and then I drive by the next day and it's already a foot low. I mean, we can't manage what we have. I don't trust anybody to manage it by drawing it down any further.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Tom Baker, what do you think the economic impact is if the BRA's permit is granted?
Well, we've already lost $105 million in property value, and we're just at the beginning of this little conversation with BRA. If we start losing another $105 million every year or every 2 years, that type of thing, the property values, well, people aren't putting their houses up for sale because they aren't going to get what they think they're worth. The normal situation in Granbury is about 27% of the homes that are for sale or sold each year are ones that are lakefront or within 250 feet of the lakefront. Now you can go back even further because the lakefront's getting further away from your house. But this past year, only 10% of them that were sold were lakefront properties. So people aren't putting them up for sale. They're not selling the ones that are there. The people that live off the lake considerably, let's say, are going to start paying more taxes because we're either going to cut our services, which nobody wants, or we're going to have to raise the property taxes to maintain the services that we already have. So it's a vicious circle. No water, taxes go up. When we get water back, hopefully the property values will come back up and the taxes won't even out. But $105 million is a lot for a 1 or 2 year cycle to lose that much value. So it's going to take a while even after the lake comes back to get those property values back again and houses being sold again. So we're in a dire circle that's not too far from, or not actually really being able to see when the end of it is going to happen.
Thank you, sir. And Tony Mobley, what do you think is going to happen if that permit is?
Well, this is probably where I'll separate myself from some of my opponents, because I'm in the financial services business. I work in a cyclical business, and if you'll recall, back in 2007, 2008, the stock market was going to go to zero, the bond market was going to collapse, society as we know it was no longer going to exist. When we get into a cycle, and it's a bad cycle, for instance the drought, the lake levels, we think whatever's happening right now is going to happen forever. No matter how much we say it will get better, because I had hundreds of those conversations over those years with clients. But nobody will believe it until it happens, and then they don't believe it happened. So when we talk about property values lowering, yes. Nobody's ever going to go to the appraisal district and say, I think you lowered my property values by mistake. Now, when they start coming up, because the lake levels have come up, then that's when they'll start saying, hey, I don't think it's worth that much. Do I think it's going to have an economic impact? Absolutely. But again, if we don't come up with an agreement, if we don't come up with some plan to make it work with the two reactors we have, I think we're talking about the wrong thing when we talk about 3 and 4, because again, if there's no water there, you won't be able to pull water anyway.
Very good.
What I want to say is I hear a lot about the drought, and I understand we're in a drought. But I disagree with all the opponents as far as the drought situation, because I am on the lake and I have seen, like last year when we had that large 6.5-inch rain, the lake filled up, and within a month all of it was gone. So we are in a drought situation. I do agree with that. But we have other factors that are draining our lake, and it's the water cells, it's luminant, it's all kinds of issues that are draining our lake. So what we need to do is do what we're doing now and face the BRA and ask them to keep our lake at a constant level, at something that is manageable where we can use our lake. Because what came out of that economic impact study was $100 million in tax loss, the homeowners' property value loss. But the other thing is hotel taxes are down, liquor taxes are down, gas sales are down. I mean, it was devastating to hear the business owners on the lake say they sold 2 tanks of gas. And then you see articles in the paper about how, people will come to Granbury, or they will come to places on the lake and buy homes on the lake at whatever cost. And when you saw the oil and gas business go up, those oil and gas people were coming in paying cash for homes on my street. And they aren't doing that now. There's houses for sale. When I go walking door to door, there's houses for sale, 3 or 4 on a street. I mean, I believe we're in a crisis situation. It's multiple factors. I think that perhaps if something that devastating happens, I hate to predict that we would have a closed downtown square. I hate to think that we have spent this much money on an opera house that we're going to be proud of, but we can't get people down here because of our lake. And I agree we're in a drought, but I think it's multiple situations that are causing our lake levels to fluctuate, and we need to fight that issue.
Thank you. And your next to the last question, ladies and gentlemen. The City of Granbury, Hood County, and the good folks at the Lake Granbury Waterfront Owners Association each contributed $100,000 for a total of $300,000 towards the legal team of Haynes and Boone. Now, there's a possibility that Haynes and Boone will need an additional $200,000 to finish the opposition to the BRA's permit request. If you are elected, would you be willing to commit another $100,000 from the City of Granbury to the legal fund? And we start off with Tom Baker.
Well, the city's contributed their $100,000 already. They're also spending about $80,000 for their own water rights lawyer. But if we spent $3.4 million for the Opera House, which was supposed to have been done for about a third of that price, I think there's plenty of money. There's plenty of money in the reserve fund that can take care of that full $200,000 for our next contribution to the legal fund. I hate spending money on lawyers, but sometimes you just have to do it to get the job done. But we have right now a 56% reserve in our budget. We only have to have a 25% reserve. The last 4 years I've been watching it increase each year. And we take a little bit here for this, a little bit there for that, but $200,000 will not affect that reserve fund by very much at all. Obviously, to reduce its percentage, but the actual impact against the budget will be minimal, and we won't really have to take money out of the budget that we maybe have already committed for something else. So $200,000, I think, is easily Granbury's portion of it, because Granbury has more to lose on what happens with the lake than any other entity here in Hood County.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Mobley, would you be willing to commit some more money for this legal defense fund if needed?
I'll be the second of all 4 to say yes, primarily because I think the economic impact of what it will do to, if nothing else, retail sales and home values. I think the city will see a return that's exponential. This will be pocket change compared to what the city will receive.
I say the same thing about the Opera House. If we can spend $3.5 million on the Opera House, I mean, we'll all contribute. Most of us here have contributed to the cause. We have to have an answer from the BRA to find out what our legal rights are to the water in our lake, to protect our lake.
The county and the Lake Granbury Water Front Owners Association contributed $100,000 each, for a total of $300,000 to pay the legal team of Haynes and Boone. There's a possibility that that's not going to be enough money, and that another $200,000 will be needed to finish the legal opposition to the BRA's permit request. If you're elected to the city council on place 4, are you willing to vote in favor of putting another $100,000 from the city into that fund?
Okay. The first thing that comes to my mind, and I apologize to the lawyers out there. In another life, I used to work at a major law firm in Washington, D.C., and I used to help them write briefs and so forth in a production environment. And they always tell you how much things are going to cost before they get to the table. Now, I don't have problems spending the money to achieve results, but before I commit more money to the attorneys, I'd like to see the light at the end of the tunnel. I'd like to see some progress made. I'd like to see what the money that's been invested so far has achieved. And if we're making positive progress, absolutely. But I'm not willing to throw another $200,000 to $300,000 to the law firm to tread water, pardon the pun.
Thank you very much. All right, this is the final question for the place 4 Granbury City Council candidates, and this will be your last opportunity to speak. So, moving forward, what would you pledge to the citizens of Granbury that will protect and preserve our lake? And we start off this time with Tony Mobley. Tony, thanks for coming today.
Well, thank you very much. You know, it's interesting. We stand up here as candidates for a city council spot, and we talk about what we're going to do and what we can do. The reality is the city council has very little pull in this fight, and I may be the only one that can stand up and admit that, because we're a city council. The BRA, somebody christened them as God several years ago. It's a legislative action. As far as the city level, we have very little say-so. But I think what we can do is, with the help of attorneys who have done this before, where they're not having to learn on the fly and learn how to fight this fight, I think what we can do is pay people to do what they're good at. And that is, while I don't think the piggy bank is unending, I think that what we can do is have them fight this fight, come up with an agreement. In the ideal world, it would be a situation where Illuminate gets what they want, BRA gets what they want, and the city of Granbury prospers. The reality is everybody's going to have to give something. Now, in my view, the city of Granbury has been doing nothing but giving in this situation. And when it comes to tax dollars, when it comes to lake levels, and when it comes to retail sales, I mean, we've been on the losing end of all of this. So my goal is, while as a single city council person, I'm very limited in what I can do, I think as a group, and as a group of cities, counties, and talk to our state representatives to get some things done to protect us on the local level, because these folks in Austin, they need our votes as well.
Very good. That's Tony Mobley. And next, Rose Myers. Rose, tell us what your pledge is to the citizens of Granbury to protect and preserve their lake.
Okay, well, first I want to thank KPIR Radio for hosting this forum and the LGWA. I disagree with Mr. Mobley because I don't think the City Council's God. I think City Council is the voice of the citizens of Granbury. And one of the reasons why I've been attending the City Council meetings for the past 1.5 to 2 years is just to understand what the citizens need. And also, I just feel like we need to have more positive leadership up there. And so my commitment to the citizens of Granbury is just to represent the city of Granbury, protect our lake, protect our interest, and do what we can do in a positive manner, and work together as a cohesive unit, and all be supportive of the common cause of saving our lake, saving our business, saving our property, and just doing the right thing for Granbury.
And that was Place 4 candidate Rose Myers. Next up, Ken Gray. What are you telling the citizens of Granbury that you will do to protect and preserve the lake they love so much?
I can't do anything by myself. It needs a whole community working together to achieve results. As Rose said, we need some leadership on the city council. But as leaders, not only on the city council, leaders in the community have to step up and work together to bring all the assets that we have together to make this a successful endeavor against the BRA. I think that we also need to be proactive in our efforts to move forward. We can't sit back, wait for a drought, and all of a sudden everybody's screaming that we're being taken advantage of. We need to look down the road, look ahead, and put measures in place so that we're not at a place like we're at today. It really comes down to leadership, garnering the efforts of the whole community to work together with the city council and speak with one voice to preserve our precious lake.
And that was Mr. Ken Gray. And Tom Baker, you've got the last word today. What's your pledge to the citizens of Granbury that you will protect and preserve their lake?
Well, also thank you for KPRA and LGWA for having this forum for us to speak. It's valuable for us to be able to speak to the whole citizenship at one time, and we also like to do it individually, door to door, which I think all of us have been doing. The lake issue is our biggest one right now. We need to have more than just the city council concerned about it. Yes, the county has come forward, LGWA has come forward, but we have the private individuals that have donated money to the fund to fight the BRA and such. I've been going to city council almost ever since I first came here to Granbury, wanting to know what's happening, what was in the minds of the council members when they made decisions and such. I've talked to friends that have come forward and gotten on the boards and committees and councils that the city council appoints and such. And I think just keeping all those people active and getting more people active, you know, we have an issue now that everybody really has one voice on, and just keeping that issue on the forefront and having everybody almost as a cheering section to tell BRA that we're bigger and it's a bigger issue for us than it is for them, and we have to win this one. We will compromise, but it'll still be a compromise where the citizens will win and BRA will have to back off and become less of a important. Somehow, must have been years ago, we did something to BRA and now they're trying to get even with us, but I think you know, that's got to be water under the bridge or over the dam, however you want to look at it, and we've got to move forward and win this battle. I guess we will compromise, yes, but we still have to get our water back so we have a vibrant community. It does affect taxes, any kind of taxes you want to look at. Hotel occupancy tax, sales tax, property tax. You know, we're going to end up paying a whole lot more and getting less out of it if we don't get the water back in the lake. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, and that was Mr. Ken Gray. I thank all four of you candidates for Place 4 Granbury City Council for coming in today. It's been a pleasure to host you. I wish you all luck. I invite everybody to please make sure that you get out and vote. This is real important this year. It's important every year, but this year it seems to be a real important issue. Thank you for joining us here on KPIR 1420 AM, the news, talk, and sports of Hood County. I'm Jerry Reynolds, your host and the owner here at the station. Thank you for joining us. Good day.